Hello, YouTube. Back at you. And back up at the park, Mount Vernon, right in the middle of Baltimore, Maryland. And thought I'd do a little review. I'd mentioned doing one on Sutliff, Virginia slices. 507C Virginia slices is the technical name. I have, and the sunlight is really bright today, and I'm I've been trying to get a good position, so that's why I got the phone so that you're kind of looking up at me. This is my Peterson Aaron with the nickel plate, the XL90. It's one of the few shapes that Peterson has I like. It's a nice, big, robust bent billiard. And in it I've got the 507 Virginia slices. Now, I carry a little Ziploc baggie with that in it. I don't know how well you'll be able to see it. And these are becoming broken slices. See, you can see it there. They're just big chunks now. It's a nice golden brown color. I did a little pre-research online, went to Tobacco Reviews. It says it's a straight Virginia, bright Virginia, matured, with no topping whatsoever. I went to Smoking Pipes, which is where I bought this, and they say that it has a light aromatic, or it has an aromatic topping, a light topping. If it does, and I smoke this fairly regularly, and if it does, it's really hard for me to taste. I get a lot of the fresh Virginia hay and grass-like qualities, and it's one of the few Virginias where I can actually taste the citrus, the lemony, zesty kind of flavor, especially at the beginning of the bowl of the smoke. So, without any further ado, let's light it up, and I'll let you know what I think. Tamp the char light and refire it. Yeah. Nice sunny day here in Baltimore. Temperature's supposed to be in the mid to upper 60s. So it looks like spring is here, finally. The governor of Maryland, Larry Hogan, just passed another order concerning the coronavirus. And basically, it's kind of a shelter-in-place type of thing. They haven't gone that far yet in Maryland. Effective 8 p.m. Eastern tonight, Monday. And we're all supposed to stay in our homes as much as possible. I mean, they are allowing people to go out for essential things and for work and things like that. So this might be the last time I'm up in the park for a little while. There's maybe 14 people in the park right now. There's people here and having their lunch. There are businesses around here that might still be open, and but otherwise it just seems like we're getting closer and closer to like martial law. I hope it doesn't come to that. So that's where we're at in the state of Maryland. It's beginning to blossom here, to balloon the number of cases. I'm staying pretty much to myself. I come up to the park. There's no crowds up here. And I go straight back home. I walk it. It's not far. But back to this. Yeah. I've always had a problem, to be honest with you folks, teasing out some of the nuances and the flavors that some tobaccos have that people talk about. The the creaminess or the various little flavor nuances, the chocolatey notes tastes like fava beans or whatever it is. And I've always had a problem doing that. I just know that if there's a blend out there and I smoke it and I like it because I like the flavor. So I don't know whether it's just my palate is not that indiscriminate or I've just never learned to really tease those things out. Virginia slices, especially on the retrohale at the beginning of the bowl, I can taste that citrusy note. Grassy and hay, I really like that. A lot of people will tell you it's mild, not a lot of nicotine. When you smoke a large bowl like this, I get toward the bottom of the bowl, I begin to maybe feel a little bit of the effects of nicotine, especially if I'm on an empty stomach. I just ate lunch, so this won't bother me now. But for the most part, I would consider it an all-day smoke. The flavor does evolve as you go down the bowl. And this is a good one for the delayed gratification effect. You smoke part of it, tamp it down, let it go out, come back a few hours later, or maybe overnight, the next day, next morning, start it up again. And you get some really interesting flavors that way. It's different. Very satisfying doing that. That's one of the reasons I love Virginias, is just that natural sweetness. If there's a topping on this, I'm not tasting it. I suspect that maybe it's just a sweetener, just a sweet sugar water or something like that. Bring out a little more of the sweetness. But especially on the retrohale. Early on in my pipe smoking, I would just puff it, like that. And then later I learned to breathe it back through your nose, and you get a lot more flavor that way. You get flavors that you're missing. And then even later, like, as I've said before, sip it. Keeps the coal in here from getting too hot, which burns out the flavors. I swear it does. If you keep that ember just smoldering a little bit, you get more flavor that way. Another thing I wanted to pass on that I've noticed, if I'm in this, it's almost like a trance-like state. I'm sitting here smoking. I'm not quite going to sleep. I never nod off and go to sleep with a pipe in my mouth. But I might have my eyes closed and I'm just tasting it. I've noticed that when I get into that state, not quite asleep, I'm still conscious and aware, but I'm just kind of disconnected from my surroundings too. And I'm just concentrating on this. And yet I'm not really trying to concentrate on it. But I've noticed when I'm in that, it's almost like a trance-like state. The flavors really come out in that condition. Whereas if I'm sitting around and I'm watching and I'm thinking about other things or I'm doing other things, I might not pick up some of that flavor. It seems like the smokes are better when I'm in that sort of situation. After dinner is really good because you want to go to sleep anyway. But yes, a lot of people will say this is one-dimensional. It is. There's not a lot of complexity in this kind of tobacco. I like that. Sometimes I don't want complexity. Sometimes I just want a nice, simple, straightforward, easygoing tobacco to sit back with. I find this highly enjoyable. That's one reason I get it. I'm absolutely a Virginia man. I like burleys. Some burleys, especially the lighter burleys. But I'll always have Virginias in my pocket somewhere. As you progress through the bowl, that citrusy note tends to disappear for me. But the hay and grassiness stay throughout the bowl. It's been my experience. And as you get down toward the bottom of the bowl, it does get a little rougher and maybe a little earthier. When I first heard people describe and discuss the flavor of tobacco, and they talked about earth, I went, ooh, really? You're smoking dirt? But that's not really what they mean. It's really hard to describe what I mean by, or what they mean by earthy, but it's there. It's just a dark, a little richer kind of flavor than the light grassy hay notes that you get at the top of the bowl or in the middle. I wouldn't say that there's really much in the way of fruitiness or plumminess with this. Maybe this is fresh, pretty fresh. Maybe if you age it for a few years, it might get like that. And I would think that this is a good tobacco for aging. It's straight Virginia. And it's inexpensive. It's under $3 an ounce at smoking pipes and probably most other places. Me being on a fixed income, retired and everything, I'm looking for good value, but yet still a good quality tobacco. And Sutliff and Cornell and Deal both make a lot of those in bulk. I think I have to tamp. Like I said, I showed you the tobacco, but when I put it in the pouch like this, in a baggie, and I carry it around, it pretty much self-rubs out to the most part. It's just chunky. But it comes in strips like this, really pretty long, much longer than your typical flake. Tobacco Reviews called it a English-European style of cut. And they are long strips, and it comes remarkably intact, folded tightly and neatly in the bag from smoking pipes. So it really doesn't seem to be harmed by the being transported across several states. And I just pick some out and put it in here and carry it around and keep the other bag. I usually double bag it, double Ziploc it, and to keep it fresh. I got a half a pound the last time. And it usually smokes pretty well without going out too many times. Not too many relights unless you talk a lot. Burns to a fairly fine, pretty white ash. I would recommend also, now that I'm thinking about it, needs to miticize it. Now that I'm thinking about it, you probably should dry this out. Take a few flakes out, part of a flake, whatever you need. Set it out and let it dry 15-20 minutes. It does carry a little bit of moisture in it. And this pipe doesn't gurgle and get wet, and it doesn't do that with this tobacco if you dry it a little bit. It smokes pretty much all the way down. Okay, that's my take on Sutliff Virginia Slices 507C. They do a lot with that 507. The 507 Stoved Virginia, I'm assuming, is the same basic stock. A little bit of wind in the bag getting in the way. So, it's a good tobacco. Very straightforward. Non-complex. If you like a Virginia, just a straight Virginia, you'll probably like this, and I do recommend it. Probably very good at aging too, so jar some up, let it sit for a few months, a few years, whatever, you can keep your hands off of it, and see how it goes. Well, that's it. You all take care and keep those corona cooties away. Stay safe, and I'll catch you next time as soon as I can, whenever things get back a little more to normal. Take care. Out.